Hey, 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 Auntie Kookoo coming at ya with another murder story. This one, you guys, is a copycat killing. So I'm sure like most of the world, no, maybe not most of the world, but anyways, have seen the show American Horror Story. I've actually been watching every season with my brother most recently. I don't know what season we're on now. But anyways, aside from that, the murder story I'm about to tell you, the girl did it because of the show. She saw it, and that was her defense in court for Rizzle. That's what it was. So, here we go. You ready? Let's do it. So this story is about Brittany Dwyer. She had a good life growing up, was known as being like a tomboy, very happy-go-lucky, had a pretty good life. But once hitting high school, she realized she was gay. And that made her feel like an outcast, made her feel like an oddball, like she just didn't belong. And she started to get them before they get me attitude, and kind of started becoming a bully herself, which in turn turned around and made other people start picking on her and bullying her. So Brittany starts becoming very depressed and isolating, and her family starts getting worried, and they try and get her help. So they got her therapy, and that did not work at all. Brittany actually started self-harming after therapy, so things went even worse. But she finds something finally that she can relate to and she enjoys, and that is American Horror Story. She becomes obsessed and involved with it and spends all of her free time watching it. So, any of you have seen the show, you'll already know, but for those of you who don't, in American Horror Story, it's about the first season the first season is about a family that moves into this home. One of the characters is Violet Harmon. She is also a loner and an outcast, and self-harms, just like Brittany, but she also has a very morbid curiosity about death and dying and afterlife and things like that. In the show, Violet meets this guy named Tate, and they bond and become two teens who both are loners and misunderstood but understand each other. Well, in real life, Brittany also meets a friend who is just like her and is misunderstood and seems to get her. Her name is Jennifer. Well, Brittany and Jennifer become very good friends, and they begin to like each other more than just friends. And they begin to really fall for each other. So their world becomes obsessed with each other. And they begin to bond over death and morbid discussions and things like that. As they get older, like when they got their licenses, they used to spend their free time going to cemeteries, and like just kind of hanging out and talking about, different ways to murder people or different murder scenarios, things like that. And then once they were old enough, they moved out and got their own apartment together. Brittany was literally the happiest she's ever been in her life, completely smitten head over heels. Her and Jennifer are living together happily ever after. But can you guess whatever would happen? They become, adults. Adult happens. Bills start piling up, responsibilities, and they decide to, Brittany specifically and hardcore, turn to drugs and alcohol to cope with the mounting bills and responsibilities. So she starts to go back into a depressed state and starts to worry, I'm going to lose what I finally found happiness in, her life with Brittany, living together. So she's very depressed, and her mom's starting to worry about her. So her mom reaches out and says, hey, I'm going to see your grandpa. It's a 20-hour road trip. Would you like to go with me? And Brittany's like, sure, why not? So they hit the road together. Mom and her make the 20-hour drive. They get to Grandpa's. Grandpa's name is Robert Whitman, and he is known as like the beloved grandfather of the neighborhood. Everybody knows him. Everyone loves him. So they get there. When they get there, Grandpa takes Mom and Brittany, his granddaughter, out back to a shed that he has locked. And he says, I want to show you guys what I have in here. God forbid, in case something happens to me. So he unlocks the shed, takes him in, and inside the shed, buried under a bunch of stuff, is this little, like, kind of treasure box type thing. Opens it up. Inside this box is $100,000 in cash. and his grandmother's ring. The mom flips out. She's like, what the hell is wrong with you? You can't have this money here. Take it to a bank. Grandpa's from old times. He's like, scratch that shit. I ain't taking my money to no bank who's going to steal my shit. I ain't down with that. Nobody knows this is here but you and my granddaughter. I have no reason to take it to a bank. I'm only showing you that it's here. It's been here all along because I'm getting older. God forbid something happens to me. I want you to know it's here. So, locks everything back up. They go in, they enjoy the rest of the visit, and they head home. So, once back home, Brittany cannot stop thinking about Grandpa's stash. Thinking about how her life is upside down. You know, she's about to lose this perfect life with her and her girlfriend Jennifer. She's turning back to the drugs and alcohol. And she begins to tell Jennifer, I think I have the answer to our problems. You know, kind of in those desperate moments. I love you, our life together. Please don't leave me. I think I have the answer to our problems. When I was on that road trip with my mother, I found my grandpa's secret stash. Here's the plan. If we drive up there and take $30,000 of it, Grandpa will never know. He'll never be any the wiser. Jennifer's like, I could get down with that. I mean, he's old. He's going to die. What's the difference? I could do that. All right, I'm down. Let's do this shit. So they do it. Jump in the car, and they drive on up there, and they get a hotel room. And later that night, Brittany stays in the hotel room while Jennifer goes to case out Grandpa's house. So she's driving around in the evening, and she gets out of the car, and she's walking, and Grandpa happens to be outside. And he sees a stranger in his neighborhood. Being the amazing old sweet man he is, he's like, hello, how are you, nice lady? And literally Brittany's like, hi. I'm sorry, Jennifer, not Brittany. Jennifer picks up her phone and texts Brittany, OMG, wow, your grandpa's so nice. Something along those lines. Brittany's response was, yeah, he is, but don't get too attached. So she goes back to the hotel. She gets Brittany. Later that night, they're going back to Grandpa's to go break into the shed and get the stash. They come on the property late at night, and as they're getting close to the shed, all of a sudden, security lights come on. So they run off, and they drive back home. The whole way home, they are pissed. What a waste of our time. You know, we didn't get any money. We still have all these bills. Still got the mountain drug and alcohol problems on top of their bills. Needless to say, they get back home. Robbery's a bust. Jennifer ends up breaking up with Brittany. Brittany's got no money, so she's got to move out of the apartment. So she does. She moves out. She's got nowhere to go now. So she goes online and she meets a lady named Bernadette Burns. Now, Bernadette Burns has had all of her children taken away from her and also is an addict. Brittany moves in with Bernadette Burns, and they start to live together. And they're using their drugs and their alcohol, and Bernadette's bitching and complaining about how she lost her children as she's getting high. I can't believe they took my children. Can I get another hit of smack? I don't know, but anyways. So they're talking about it, and Brittany starts to remember, and not remember, but bring up and mention, because it's never left her mind, her grandfather's money. Tells her, you know, if we took the $30,000, he'd never know. They start planning. And the wheels are turning, like, you know, if we went and did this, Bernadette's thinking, not only one, could I get my kids back with this money, but two, I mean, I could get high. Let's do this shit. At this point, these two are literally, like, scrounging for money day by day. So they scrape up every penny they got to drive the 20 hours to Grandpa's. They drive all the way there, use all their gas money. So at this point, there's no turning back. They have no money to get back home. So they go, and they're outside of Grandpa's house, and Bernadette's sitting in the car, and Brittany conceals a knife in her sweater or pants or whatever, walks up to Grandpa's house. He sees her, he's like, oh, my granddaughter, Brittany, what are you doing here? You know, she lives 20 hours away. My goodness, my child, come inside. She goes in, and she's like, oh, I was in the area, Grandpa, I wanted to see you. They start looking at old family photos and stuff, and Bernadette's sitting in the car the whole time. Brittany finally texts Bernadette and is like, I don't think I can do it. I have to look down for a minute because I want to get it correct in what Bernadette said back. Her response was, the text back, "You have to, exclamation point. It'll be suspicious if you don't. You can do it." I guess it should have been followed behind a Nike check sign of "just do it." So Brittany tells Jeepa, "I gotta go." But before she leaves, as he's walking her to the door, turns for that last hug, she pulls out the knife and begins stabbing her grandfather repeatedly. Stabbing him and stabbing him and stabbing him. Finally, after multiple stabs, she's done and she's looking at him, and he looks at her and asks her why. She has no answer whatsoever. Grandpa, like, stumbling around, obviously he's bleeding everywhere, trying, to stop the bleeding. Brittany stops what she's doing, comes over, and pretends to help him. Like she's trying to help stop the bleeding. But he's not dying fast enough. So she stops that and decides to go in and just wash the dishes while she waits for him to officially be dead. Once he's completely dead, and she knows it, and I guess all the dishes are clean, thank God for that, she goes out and gets Bernadette. Bernadette comes in and they start looking. They can't find the key of the shed anywhere. Nowhere. At this point, she's got her grandfather's laying on the floor in a stabbed, bloody mess. But clean dishes, I guess. Can't find the key. They're like, screw it, we gotta get out of here. Start rummaging, grab whatever you can. They find a few rare coins, a camera, a bunch of crap. The total haul came to $1,000. They go back home. So, once they get back home, the bills once again start piling up and stuff. And the neighbors start wondering, where's Grandpa? He was a beloved member in the community. The girls go back home, go about their lives. Things are, right, it was $1,000. It didn't get them very far. Let things back to the way it was, chaos. But in Grandpa's neighborhood, 20 hours away, neighbors are like, where's Jeepa? The newspapers are piling up outside. What's going on? So they finally gain access to his house, get in, and they find him dead on the floor. So obviously this is suspicious. He's been stabbed to death laying there. Bernadette's back home with Brittany, high as can be on her smack or whatever, running her friggin' flapper snapper, telling everybody what she friggin' did. Oh yeah, we murdered a man for $100,000 and only got $1,000. Well, needless to say, one of these junkies she's hanging out with was like, what? I'll call the Crime Stopper dog and get me $1,000. Do. Yeah, Crime Stoppers. Called their asses in. So the cops come and question the girls. Needless to say, they grab their friggin' phones. The evidence is there. Bernadette, you have to. It'll be suspicious if you don't. Just do it. I can't murder my grandfather. Busted, bitches. So that's the end of the story on that. Obviously, Brittany's family's devastated. Pleads guilty. In court, when they ask her, why? Why did you do it? She says, this came about all because of American Horror Story. Tear. Really? That's your fucking excuse? Sorry about language. Oops, censor. So, needless to say, Brittany pleads guilty. She gets 21 years to life. Bernadette is sentenced to 13 and a half years to life. No one wins. It was all for nothing. The whopping $1,000, right? And a good, amazing grandfather, husband, neighbor, whatever, dead. Unbelievable. But the real kicker in the end for Brittany is, just like in her favorite show, American Horror Story, she's locked up in 4 walls. All by herself. At the end of American Horror Story, if you haven't seen, I'm gonna kill it for you. Ooh, little pun there. Pa. But the people all end up dead and trapped in that house forever. Well, now Brittany's in her 4 walls forever. Anyways, that's another story coming at you live, courtesy of Auntie Kookoo. Thank you guys for joining in. I appreciate it. As always, you guys, give hugs, not drugs. Make love, not war. Be kind to one another. Check out my YouTube channel, Storytime with Auntie Kookoo. That's with a K. Kookoo. And that's it. All right? You guys can share. You can spread it. I hope it brings... it's a sad story. But I try to have a little fun with it, I guess. It's there. Gotta love it. Stay healthy. Stay healthy. Stay healthy. Stay safe. Love yas.